Experience the journey of creativity at Mardi Gras Fine Arts Festival. Join us for a weekend filled with stunning masterpieces, live performances, and a celebration of artistic expression. Mardi Gras brings together talented artists from around the world, transforming our festival grounds into a kaleidoscope of color and inspiration. Bring the whole family for a day of art, music, and delicious food. Mardi Gras Fine Arts Festival, where creativity comes to life. Visit mardigras.org for details.
This podcast is brought to you by Jupiter Medical Center, rated #1 for quality, safety, and patient experience. Jupiter Medical Center is your choice for world-class healthcare. With state-of-the-art facilities and leading-edge technologies, their award-winning physicians provide the highest caliber of care for the community. Jupiter Medical Center is proud to announce the opening of the all-new Johnny and Terry Gray Surgical Institute featuring the latest in innovative surgical care. To learn more, visit them at jupitermed.com. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Palm Beach North podcast brought to you by Jupiter Medical Center. My name is Noel Martinez, President and CEO of the Palm Beach North Chamber. And today's episode is particularly exciting because we are celebrating one of the most anticipated events here in South Florida, the Mardi Gras Fine Arts Festival. And joining us today is a longtime participant and standout figure at Mardi Gras, Sarah LaPierre. So Sarah grew up in an artistic family, right? She grew up right here in South Florida, or she's a South Florida resident, daughter of renowned painter Joe LaPierre, who a lot of us know. She developed a unique, thick paint style that is super cool. And we're going to talk a little bit about it here in a little bit. And she's super active in philanthropy, supports many, many organizations like the Quantum House. She uses her talents to help benefit various local charities. So Sarah, it's such a pleasure to have you here today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. What an intro. I'm like, whoa, I did all this.
Well, we got to have a little fun with it. So talk to me about where did you grow up? Where are you from? What was Sarah like as a kid?
Good question. I was born and raised Palm Beach Gardens, kind of close to the high school over there on Holly. Our family was a really, really active one, always in the arts community. As you mentioned, my dad was an artist. So my life was a very creative one early on. We had, a home where his studio was inside our house. So there was just always painting and music happening. And that just has been ingrained in my life from a very early age. So Palm Beach Gardens is where it all started.
Palm Beach Gardens. So did you go to Palm Beach Gardens High?
Actually, I didn't. So I have an older brother, and my brother and I were both homeschooled.
Okay.
About 6 months out of the year, we traveled because my dad was an artist. We would do the whole Florida art show circuit and season. And then during the summertime, we would go up north and do the circuit and season up there. So we'd be on the road and we'd be doing school on the road.
What was that like? Was it fun? Like, what is your best memories of traveling around doing art shows all over the country?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was so much fun. I mean, to me, it was also normal, right? Like it was my average. When people asked if it felt interesting or different, I didn't know any different because this is just how I grew up. But it was so fun to get to go to these other towns, other cities, other states as a kid. And really, my dad or my mom would be at the art show participating. And my brother and I would just be kind of wandering around the art show, like meeting other artists, getting to see all this incredible artwork, soaking up different, like really cool spots and cities from an early age. It was such a special experience.
That's awesome. And then so we talked a lot about your dad, right? Everyone knows your father. Tell us a little bit about your dad. What was he like?
One of the phrases that always comes to mind for myself and for other people was larger than life. He had a really big personality, and he was a big dude too. He was like 6'4", so not a man that you could easily miss. And yeah, he was a really prolific painter, loved what he did. He had such a joy for not only creating artwork, but really encouraging other people to create artwork as well. And actually that was one of his big involvements with a show like Mardi Gras, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later. He really made it a mission of his to encourage people to find and follow their passion, especially if it was artwork.
At what point, so you grew up in this artistic world, right? At what point do you realize, all right, this is what I'm going to do. This is going to be my career. This is what I'm going to do to make a living.
Definitely early on. I mean, I had such a strong example. He was a very successful artist and, supported our family, and we had a great lifestyle that I saw that what you could do with your time and how you could translate your passion into, a financially secure job. I mean, thankfully for me, when I said I want to do this full time, or I, approached my parents about wanting to kind of pursue this seriously, they weren't afraid of it. As so many parents have that kind of step back moment if their kid says they want to be an artist, of like, well, don't you want to do something more reliable, or, be a doctor, or be something that you can count on a paycheck for? They didn't have that because he was a strong example of how you could financially succeed as an artist and, be your own business and work as an entrepreneur and apply that to your passion. So, yeah, I think I went to Palm Beach State College. I got my associate's degree. That was kind of a okay, family, I did my little bit of college
I got my paper.
that you required. I got my paper. I really just want to get to work now. And most of my time at college, while I had a great experience, Palm Beach State was wonderful for me. And it was important. There were stepping stones that were good for me there. I knew the whole time that this is just leading into me painting full time.
So you said business, right? Entrepreneur. I mean, this is, the chamber is all about the business community. So people don't realize what's it like being an artist all day long. So walk us through that. What does a typical day for Sarah LaPierre look like?
That's a good question. And it is an interesting one because so many times I come across the sort of statement, which is really harmless and it's not negative, but it's the statement of, oh, you're an artist. You must just love what you do and you paint all day and that's all you have to do. What a life, It's
not when it's work.
It's this beautiful bohemian dream. And I get it. That is the dream for sure. But if you want to be a successful artist and make it a business, then you absolutely have to do, the details that come along besides painting. The majority of what I do is well, not even the majority, a balance, let's call it, is creative. And then it's, admin, it's answering emails, it's putting my work out there, it's applying to events, it's managing events, it's setting up all of those, dotting the I's, crossing the T's that get me into a show like Mardi Gras and get me prepared for that. So right now I have a studio in West Palm Beach and my daily routine is I kind of get in there. I try and get my creative energy. I'm most creative in the morning and I have the most, energy. I'm ready to go, ready to get painting first off. So I get in and I get painting. I work on something for a couple hours, whether that's a completed painting or it gets me started on the next thing. And then I get into emails and then I get into, the space I'm at now is also a big event space. It's The Peach. It's an artist collective in West Palm Beach. And we host a lot of events. We host creative workshops. We have groups coming in. We have live music and all sorts of things going on there. So it's a mix of everything.
So you do a lot of shows, or you don't do a ton of shows. You do a few shows a year, right?
So what I do now, growing up and getting into this career, I started, actually Mardi Gras was my first official art show on my own. I did the Emerging Artist Program, which is still to this day one of my favorite things about Mardi Gras. But yeah, I did the whole season. I did almost every weekend or every other weekend. I would be at an art show and I would be traveling all across South Florida and taking my artwork with me, setting up the booth, doing the whole festival for the weekend thing.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. But I did that for about 10 years. And then more recently, I decided to pull back and kind of try and focus my energy on my community. And I realized I was spending so much time hopping around to other communities that it was really hard for me to give back more where I was. So I wanted to kind of pull back my energy, get a little bit more rooted into the environment here. And it's made a big difference for me. I'm really enjoying the process now of feeling like a local artist and, feeling connected to the community here and being able to support myself and support other creatives here in a different way now. So the only art show I do, the only arts festival is Mardi Gras. It's once a year. It's a big one for me. Yeah.
Yes, I love to hear that.
It was interesting to kind of take that step. But I do, I am predominantly a self-represented artist, which means I'm selling my work. as opposed to galleries or other entities selling my work. So I have, work that's available on my website, through social media, like all of these new modern avenues that you have as an independent artist are the things that I use.
So Artie Girl's the only show. Why Artie Girl? What is it about Artie Girl that, and not that this is not about Artie Girl. Today we're here to talk about you, but why Artie Girl? Why is that the only show?
I mean, I've always loved that show. It's been a part of my life. My dad participated in it. It's a gorgeous show. Not only like the setting is wonderful, it's operated so professionally and so excellently. It's just on another standard. I really love the caliber of artists that I see there. Those are kind of the artists that I want to be around. It's exciting for me to see that show every year and what artists come out. And I know every year it's an incredible crowd. It's people who are not just there to kind of fill their time. They're there because they want to support artists. They want to purchase artwork. They're interested in collecting original artwork that speaks to them. So you bring out like a really unique crowd, and that's why it's Artie Girl for me.
Hey, I've got to have you doing some of these Artie Girl commercials. I mean, my goodness, that was awesome. Thank you so much for saying that. And we absolutely love you. Like, you are part of the Artie Girl family. So I didn't tee that question up, but thank you. We couldn't have said that any better. And we feel the same way about you. We feel like you've grown up in Artie Girl, and you're part of who we are. So thank you for saying that.
I'll tell you, it also helps that it's in Palm Beach Gardens.
Yeah.
And I don't have to, go get an Airbnb, go get a hotel room. I get to sleep in my own bed. It's just the perfect mix for me.
So staying on the business side of things, what are the biggest challenges that artists are facing right now?
Ooh, I mean, there is kind of an interesting thing about how quickly this area is growing and how much we know that there's spaces, homes, offices with empty walls that need artwork, right? But it's about being discoverable. And however that happens for artists, it's different ways. So whether you're somebody who needs representation in a local gallery, I would love to see more spaces that show art across Palm Beach County. I mean, we have some really great ones, but I want to see more still, more representation of the artists that are here. A lot of the bigger galleries that we see are representing artists from New York, Miami, phenomenal talents, but not necessarily showcasing who's here year round, who has their lives here. So yeah, representation is a big one, making sure that there's venues available to artists who are needing to show their work, whether that's at a festival or through a gallery or, local businesses that support having artists on their walls.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your style, right? I talked a little bit about it when I was introducing you. It's called acrylic impasto.
Correct.
I think I said it right.
Yes.
Kind of tough to say. Fancy word for thick paint.
Thick paint, that's it.
And it's like your style. Like when you think of Sarah, that's what you think of. So talk to me about that. How did you develop this technique? Where did it come from?
So impasto is something that's been around, right? It's not new. You can see it in some old masters. It's been around. It is, for whatever reason, I don't understand why it's not more popular of a technique. I love it. I'm just always attracted to textural artwork. Like that's one of the first things I notice about a piece, maybe besides color. I'm looking for texture, whether that's, in a fabric or a ceramic or wood or anything, painting, of course. I'm just noticing that. So that's what I gravitate towards. It's a really fun way for me to paint because it involves a lot of movement. And you've seen my artwork in person. I tend to paint pretty large, right?
Yep.
So for me, painting gets very physical, and it's like a whole kind of meditation thing for me where I get into my zone and I get moving around. So impasto just lends itself to that kind of like flow where I'm not being really photographic and precise, and I'm not making these tiny little brush marks that lead into like a really detailed piece. I get to be loose. It's a little expressionism. Like it's a fun way for me to move and kind of communicate through texture.
And it's messy because it's everywhere.
Messy.
Typically, I was teasing you earlier. You weren't wearing your full-on suit that's usually covered in acrylic paint.
I'm absolutely covered head to toe. Yeah, there's a reason I wear that's like my uniform when I'm in the studio because I've just ruined way too many clothes. So now I get the suit, get it on. I can get all I waste less paper towels that way. by just wiping my brush or my knife off on my clothes.
Does it ever get too stiff where you get stuck? Like when she
I've
dries
had
up?
to retire some of the overalls for sure, where they're like stand up on their own, and I'll save them. Maybe they'll be in some collection of interesting things that Sarah owned one day, but yeah.
Do you only do this on canvas, or are there like other, where else can you paint this impasto?
Predominantly, I do it on canvas. That's how I like to work. It's got a flexibility to it that way. You can kind of push and pull into canvas a little bit more, but I've painted on, on board, on different surfaces. Canvas is just kind of the number one for me that I like to work on.
Got it. And let's talk about the subjects that you paint. So how do you choose your subjects, right? You do natural kind of like beach settings and beautiful trees. Like is it always some sort of landscape or?
I'm predominantly a landscape painter. I call it like landscapes and sort of Florida iconography. So things that we think of when we think of Florida, different birds, different animals, but certainly the settings. I paint them because those are just the places where I want to spend more time. And whether those, paintings are kind of a reflection of the time I'm spending outside, or they're capturing a moment in time, of this beach that looked a certain way back, this year might not look the same as we know in a couple of years.
Sure,
so
right.
It's kind of capturing this little time capsule in a painting. And I like those moments. And like I said, I'm somebody who's happier and more inspired the more I'm outside. So why not kind of bring that into my painting as well? And I know a lot of people find joy and peace in those kind of settings as well, especially when you have that brought into your home or brought into your office. My artwork is ending up in people's lives, which is incredibly touching to me every time I stop and think about it, that somebody has, traded their time, money, whatever, to have a piece of my artwork in their home. It's incredibly special that they're choosing it, that they want to spend their time and, have their kind of moment of peace with this painting or whatever they enjoy about it. It's just such a special thing to share with somebody.
It's got to feel amazing, right? Your artwork is in homes and businesses all over the world. Like, that's got to be so cool.
It's kind of wild. I mean, when I think of how many paintings I've created and the fact that, the majority of them have gone out to live with other people, it is really special.
So I talked a little bit earlier, we talk a lot about community and you're part of this community. You're part of us, right? Talk a little bit about your philanthropy work. You've done a lot of work with a lot of local nonprofits. How have you done that? And how has working with those nonprofits influenced your artwork?
It's always been important to me, and it's always still a learning process as well. I don't want to say this to say that I've found the method that is perfect for anything. I try to look at my art business and honestly my life as a bit of an experiment, which allows me the flexibility to maybe make some mistakes or go down paths and try things to see if they work. And if they don't, then I pivot. But the way that I've kind of approached, working with philanthropy and finding businesses, nonprofits, whoever to partner with, are obviously they're things that I see immense value in. So entities like the Quantum House or Place of Hope, that I just know there's incredible need of those organizations. And if I can align my artwork somehow in a way that is able to give back and also inspire at the same time. So a lot of times I'll do live paintings at events. Right?
I've seen you do it. It's so cool.
Whether
Super
it's
cool.
like a gala or something more casual, it's definitely a way to, as an artist, give back and kind of, also excite a community and seeing people's eyes kind of light up when they realize how we can all support each other and how these things can be integrated. And it doesn't just have to be, another, dinner plate that you paid a lot of money for. That works. Obviously, it's a system that works, but adding something a little special and being able to, use my artwork in a way that can give back has been incredible. I don't know if that really answers the question.
No, it does.
well,
It does. It definitely does. I mean, I felt it. I'll tell you that. So you've had a pretty cool career. Like, you've done some pretty cool stuff already, right? It's such a young age. You've got some great, milestones that you've hit. So is there any memorable experience or a story from some sort of art show or something that really sticks out in your brain. You're like, man, that was really, really special.
Gosh, it has been many years of art shows. So that's kind of a long line of like, let me go back in the Rolodex. And there's things that pop out immediately. And I don't mean this at all to line up so perfectly, but truly a lot of them are at Mardi Gras. I've had, so many moments. So like, for one example, last year, it might seem like a little thing, but it was huge to me, where a mother and daughter who have been found me on Instagram, right? Have been watching my live streams when I started streaming through the pandemic, when everything kind of shut down. And I was, as an artist, a little bit freaked out of thinking, how am I going to sell my artwork if I'm not able to go to shows or represent myself at a space anymore? What is that going to look like for me? So I just decided to let me start streaming. It'll have, a community connection. I'll still be able to reach people. So I was just painting I think I was doing it every Sunday. And then I had these things called mini Mondays, where I would paint miniature canvases every single Monday, and people knew to expect that every Monday. And then at 7 p.m., they would go on my website and they could be for sale. Anyway, long story short, I had this mother and daughter who would watch every week, and they got so excited every week. And, I got multiple nice messages from them on Instagram. And then eventually, I think it was 2 years later, they flew down for Mardi Gras. They were based in Pennsylvania. And it was so special to finally meet them. And, they ended up purchasing a piece that they both picked out together. And it was just such a beautiful moment. And I know now that they're becoming a part-time resident in Palm Beach Gardens, which is amazing.
Good.
But yeah, it felt so incredible that I got, sort of just accidentally connected to this person and her family in Pennsylvania. And they happened to enjoy my work, and it became a part of their weekly routine. And they eventually, like I said, flew down to the show. That was such a first for me, where I was just kind of blown away.
That is such a great story. My goodness.
Sweet.
All right. So Pink Waves, tell me about that. So you got to be the curator for the Pink Waves exhibit. Tell me a little bit about that for everyone listening or watching that doesn't know what Pink Waves is. Tell us about that.
That was such a new venture for me. So this is back to my studio. I moved into a new studio space last year in April. It's a part of an art collective. It's called The Peach. It's based in West Palm Beach. It's this beautiful building that's been renovated. It was actually a garage, and now it's renovated into 6 independent artist studios. And we all have our own work on business, separate things, but we work as a collective to host different events, and we can host events out of our spaces should we choose to. Well, of course, when I move into a new space, it's a lot of new energy for me. Like it's really exciting to get into a fresh area and kind of feel it out and feel how the creativity is going to flow differently in just a different environment. So a few months into painting and being there, actually it was maybe only 2 months in, I think May is when I decided that I really wanted to have a group show. There's some artists that I'm getting more connected to, or some that I just kind of met that I was inspired by their work or whatever they were doing. And I wanted to see specifically women artists highlighted in a stronger way. So I actually partnered with a local curator, Gabby Viteri. She and I worked together on developing this show of 22 women artists, all local, we had most of them were Palm Beach County. We had 2 Martin County residents and 1 Miami-Dade County resident. But yeah, all local women artists. And it was for the entire month of October. So I took down my whole studio, all my setup, everything that normally makes me function as an artist, that all came away, and painted the walls pink. I mean, it was floor to ceiling, like the whole thing was pink themed. And we did a wonderful tie-in. It was the month of October. So we did tie-in worked with, shoot, I'm going to forget the name now.
Cancer.
Thank you.
The breast.
Promise Fund of Florida.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry.
So we worked with Promise Fund of Florida, and were able to, help raise them funds and awareness for them, because they're a local entity as well. And what they do to help women in, through health crisis is incredible. But yeah, that was such a new role for me to take on. I had never curated anything or, tried to be an event planner or all of the things that come along. And it was so, so special. I mean, I was beyond delighted. I'm still delighted that it happened. I think I was riding a high for another 2 months still after the show. So it was a really special experience. It's something that was truly one of a kind. I don't know if it'll happen again, if it happens in a different way, a new iteration. I have no idea. But it was a role that I really enjoyed curating. It was a special thing to be able to, work with artists in a different capacity and really show them off in the best ways that I know how. And I think Gabby and I did that really successfully. We had an opening that was a kind of VIP experience. All the artists get together and we have kind of a smaller opening, which was supposed to be about 50 people, and it turned into about 100 people, which was great. And then we had a grand opening, which ended up being about 500 people in attendance. And we were kind of just blown away by all the positive feedback and how excited the community was. And one of the factors that made it a little extra special was not only that the exhibit was, all this incredible pink artwork that was all so different in its style and approach, but everybody at the opening wore pink. And it was just a really fun environment. It was very uplifting. People who you just normally wouldn't think would attend something like that really had a good time coming out because it was a different sense of an art exhibit. So we had fun with it.
Awesome. Well, let's look forward a little bit, right? So how do you, see your art evolving in the future, right? And are there any new projects, anything cool coming up that we need to know about?
Oh, gosh.
Other than Mardi Gras?
Other than Mardi Gras.
When this comes out, Mardi Gras is going to be the
right
weekend.
around the corner.
Yep.
Oh, my gosh. I can't wait. There's always evolutions. As an artist, that's one of the special things is that there's never a pinnacle, a moment that's like, okay, I've done it. I've made it. I've progressed all the way to master, and now I'm here, and I kind of just sit back. It's always a continuation, learning something, trying something new, getting to experiment. I think something that I'm really looking forward to next that's sort of a different iteration of my work is a series that I've slowly been working on and will have, again, a little bit more time to post Mardi Gras, is a found object series. So it incorporates my thick paint, my impasto painting, but it's also incorporating objects that were kind of would otherwise be trash, basically. So either they're things that I've literally found on the beach or on a nature walk, or I go to this wonderful place called Resource Depot.
Yeah, you got to plug Resource Depot.
I love, and my studio is really close to them, so it's a dangerous mix. But I, can get items from them and incorporate all these really interesting new textures, because there's things like plastics, glass, fibers, like all of these elements, what you might know as like mixed media, and apply them and make my visuals out of those instead of just paint. So a new mixed media series is something that I'm really looking forward to kind of diving more into next.
So we've got to kind of wrap things up here pretty shortly, but I really want to ask you a question about, what kind of advice would you give Sarah when she was young, or someone that's coming up that wants to be an artist?
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give?
I feel like I try to do this a lot. People reach out to me, whether on Instagram or in person, and I try to be available for advice and kind of be an open book and resource for younger artists. So I'm glad you asked that question. I would say, there's so many ways to be a professional, successful artist, that if you're young, there's plenty of time to experiment. I am young-ish, young adjacent, and there's still time to experiment. So, if you're somebody who really is a great people person and you thrive off of the energy of being around and being in community, then there's great places to get plugged in. One of the wonderful resources that we have here in Palm Beach County is the Cultural Council. Mm-hmm. Excellent resource for local artists. Also finding communities like the Peach Art Collective or other places where artists are gravitating towards. Find yourself a mentor or somebody that you can kind of, have a conversation with more directly and see what has worked for them in their career and what hasn't. So really, as much as you can, be a part of your community and experiment, because there's no one right way.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. anything that you want to end with? Where can people find you? If someone has not followed you on social media yet, how do they find Sarah LaPierre?
Thank you. Important question.
Important. That's the most important question today.
So people can find me. I'm definitely on Instagram at Thick Paint. And then also, of course, website is just my name, saralaplapierre.com. If you want to come visit my studio in person, I'm at the Peach Art Collective, which is in West Palm Beach. You can also find all the details of that on Instagram and my website.
And you can see Sarah this weekend at the ARRG Fine Arts Festival, which takes place on Saturday and Sunday at North County District Park, Gardens, North County District Park. So really excited to be back, Sarah. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Were dynamite.
You're a phenomenal host.
Oh my goodness.
I hope it doesn't seem so obvious, but this has been my first podcast.
You said that earlier, and I'm like, you're a pro. I got to tell you guys a funny story about Sarah and I. Last year, we were doing an interview, like pre-Mardi Gras interview at like 4 o'clock in the morning. We were out there first thing in the morning, and the news guys out there, we're all set up and we're all recording, and all of a sudden in the darkness, the sprinklers turn on, and it's like live TV.
Oh, man, I forgot about that. Yeah.
We had a chef out there. Food was all laid out. You were painting.
We were like grabbing whatever we could to cover those sprinkler heads. Like each of us was on, 2 of them at least.
Oh my goodness. I should have forgot to bring that up earlier, but that is one of my favorite Sarah LaPierre moments.
That's a good moment.
Something we will never forget. But anyways, thank you all so much for tuning in. Sarah, thanks again for being here. Please like, follow, share, tell everybody about Sarah, tell everybody about our podcast. And we look forward to seeing you guys in 2 weeks or see you this weekend at Mardi Gras. So have a great day. See you later. Thank you.
Bye, guys.